Hey guys, I'm going to do a quick and dirty tutorial here on rolling wormholes. We're going to pretend that this high-sec system is our wormhole system that we're living in. So the reasons that we roll wormholes is to get rid of threats. So we might have some high-level wormhole with hardcore PvPers that are looking to kill people, but we just want to farm our wormhole in peace, so we're going to close that wormhole to get rid of that threat. Another reason is to get new statics, so every wormhole has a certain connection at all times. So it might be a high-sec connection, and our current high-sec static is in the middle of nowhere. We want to be close to JITA, so we might roll that connection, close it, and get a new random high-sec that's hopefully in a better position. And also, we roll to lock down our system. So when we close all the random wormholes that we get, and we're left with just those static wormholes, when we close them, if we don't initiate warp to the new ones that spawn in our system, the other side won't spawn. So the effect is that people don't have a way into our wormhole until some random wormhole connects. That could be like a whole day sometimes. So when we're rolling, it's important to know the characteristics of the wormhole. So every wormhole connection has somewhere that it leads to. It leads to high-sec or null-sec or to a class 3 wormhole, etc. So we need to know what we're going into. Every wormhole has a lifetime. So usually there's 16 or 24 hours. And there's some messages you can see like has not yet begun, means there's over 24 hours left. Beginning to decay means it's got 4 to 24 hours. We can see in here this wormhole is beginning to decay, so we know it's got 4 to 24 hours. Or if it says it's reaching the end, it's got less than 4 hours. It could be 5 minutes. You never know, so you don't want to go in that wormhole generally. Every wormhole also has a maximum amount of ship mass that can go through it. So right now we're looking at an X702 wormhole. Let's look that up here. X702. The maximum mass that can go through it right now is 375,000 tons. So a battleship, as an example, is about 100,000 tons, and Orca is 150,000. And then every wormhole has a total mass that can go through it. So our X702 here allows a total of 1 million tons. So it'd be like 10 battleships. Now there is a chance that that will deviate up or down by 10%. So on a 1 million ton wormhole, you can have only 900,000 or up to 1.1 million tons. On a 3 million ton wormhole, as you can see, some of them will take 3 million tons. You might get up to 3.3 million. So there's a whole extra 3 battleships in there. So when ships pass through wormholes, they lose some of that total mass that they have left. Now, there are messages in the wormhole information that will tell you if a lot of ships have gone through, and its stability is reduced as a consequence. So we can see that normal has not yet had its stability, has not yet had its stability. So we know that this one is still over 50% mass. When it's shrunk, when somebody says a wormhole is shrunk, that means it's less than 50% mass, or if it's critical, stability has been critically disrupted. That means it's got less than 10% mass. If you go through it, you might end up closing it. It might only have enough mass left for a frigate. You go through it in your battleship and you're stuck on the other side because it's collapsed. So when we are rolling wormholes, we're trying to push our ships through so that the math, the total sum of our mass going out and then back in, is enough to reach that limit without closing it before our final ship is back through and home. So on a 1 million ton wormhole, we're going to be pushing through 2 ships out and then back in. Now normally their mass would only be 400,000 tons, but we actually fit them out a certain way so that it increases their mass. So there is a special rig you can buy called a Higg's anchor that will double the mass to 200,000 on a battleship, 200,000-ish, and then when you put a micro warp drive on and you turn it on, that's another 100,000. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to get either 200,000 or 300,000 tons enough times and in a certain combination to reach the limit, the mass limit of this wormhole, so it closes without locking ourselves out. So this is the Praxis template. You can find it in a channel called Wormhole Connections. That's where this list comes from. You can find these templates here. I've added them. So this is the template Praxis. It's a cheap battleship roller for that 200,000 or 300,000 tons. Sometimes you'll get a wormhole. For example, this one might end up being 1.1 million. We push our battleships through and it doesn't end up closing. We know there's less than 100,000 tons left. We don't want to roll out our battleship. So we use a special ship that goes out with only a little bit of mass, but comes back with a lot of mass. So this ship here is called the Hick Heavy Interdiction Cruiser. It can actually be fit up with special modules that reduce its mass to less than the size of a shuttle. So there's 100,000 tons left on this wormhole. We send this out, it's barely going to register. It's less than 1,000 tons. When it comes back in, these modules are off, and it turns on an oversized prop mod, which gives it 128,000 tons. So if that wormhole only had 100,000 left, when this guy comes through, he collapses it. So it's just a little bit extra mass that we can push through with little risk. The Hicks are kind of high skill, so we actually have a low skill alternative. So when this guy goes out, he is only 20,000 tons. So let's say you have 100,000 left, or 200,000 or 300,000, depending on the wormhole connection. You push this guy through, it's only 20,000 tons. He's unlikely to collapse your wormhole. And even if he does get trapped on the other side, he's only worth 6.6 million. When he comes back, same deal, he turns on his oversized prop mod, and you see his mass balloons to 122,000. So he's going to collapse that wormhole coming in. And if it's a bigger wormhole where there's an extra 200,000 or 300,000, you would just use a couple of these at the same time. So what I'm going to get you guys to do is, as always, in all my videos, you are going to press the letter L. Click in space, press the letter L, and a little window will pop up with just your local bookmarks. This is going to be important for our pings. So we don't want to have to go fiddling through people and places and find like bookmarks for our pings and a list of like 100. We just want to have our bookmark for our wormhole, our bookmark for our ping. So the process of rolling is you probe down your wormhole, you check it out, you bookmark your side, of course. You are going to identify the wormhole. We see it's an X702. If I come up to the wormhole, it only says K162. That means it's the exit side. Now we can visually identify where that wormhole leads by eyeballing it, but that doesn't really tell us the mass. So your explorer is going to go through first. He's going to look at the other side, which will have that designation. We look it up in the list and we see all our mass and everything. So then we're going to go through, we're going to bookmark the far side. We're going to go to different parts of the system and do a D-scan. So we're going to open up our map. We're going to fly to distant planets, cloak to do a D-scan, make sure there's no ships around. If we see any structures, we're going to fly up to the structure at 100 kilometers, click on the structure, and then you will see a little number in brackets that says 1, 2, 3, or 0. We're looking for 0. We don't want people to be home in the wormhole that we're about to roll. So we're going to, after we check that structure, we're going to come back to our wormhole less 100 kilometers, and we're going to start burning away until we're more than 150 kilometers away, and we're going to make a bookmark there called a ping. This is so that when our rolling battleships go in, they don't have to slow burn back up to the wormhole, because when you have a Higgs anchor, you only go about 20 meters a second. You're going to be there for an hour. So you're going to warp to this bookmark that's only a couple hundred kilometers away and warp back to 0 at the wormhole. So you don't have to like slow burn or warp across the system or whatever. That's what that ping bookmark was for. So we've got our, we've come back home, we've gone to get our rollers, we've brought them to the wormhole. I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. So on a 1 million ton hole like we're about to do, we know it's either 1 million or 900,000 or 1.1. So the first pass, our two guys are going to go out, one hot, 300,000 tons, and one cold, 200,000 tons. Cold just means without the MWD on. This is going to give us 500,000 tons. That should be half the mass of the wormhole gone, and it should say this has had its stability reduced, but not to a critical degree. That's called shrunk. If it is shrunk, we're going to come back out, hot and cold. That gives us another 500,000, and the wormhole should close. If it doesn't say it's shrunk, we're going to come back in hot, which will give us 600,000 tons, and it will close that wormhole. When you are doing a 2 million ton wormhole, similar process. We're going to do, if we're using 2 rollers, we're going to do 2 passes. So we're going to go out, cold, come back, hot. That gives us 1 million tons. If it's shrunk, that means it should be normal mass, 2 million tons. So we're going to go out 4,000, come back 600,000, and it'll close. If it's not shrunk, we're going to go back out 600,000 and come back in 600,000, which gives us a total of 2.2 million tons. So if it's plus that 10%, it's going to close. So we are going to be doing this process with our rollers, since we're only on a 1 million ton hole. All right, here we go. So 1 cold, 1 hot. Did I just turn on the MWD on the first one? Okay. So we're going to ping out. No threats here. I think I actually pushed the MWD on both of them. So we're going to go out cold and see if it's shrunk. Here we go. Warp back to 0.
Warp drive active.
So that I made that mistake doesn't really matter. What matters is I get this 1 million tons, just past 500,000 tons coming in and then going out, totaling 1 million tons basically. Sorry, that's a little confusing the way I said it. So we want to be at 1 million tons when we go out. So we're going to go out cold. And I botched that. Okay, now we're gonna go out hot. And there we go. So we're gonna give it a second. Sometimes it takes a moment for it to collapse. If it doesn't collapse, it means I botched the roll. But we've got our little emergency roller here just for that purpose. So we've got our indy. We're going to go out cold. We're going to ping. So we'll say that this was a 1.1 million ton hole. Now I'm going to go back down. And now going back out, I'm going to turn on the prop mod that's going to give me over 100,000 tons. And that's going to close the wormhole. So I botched the roll. Ah! There we go. All right. I don't even think I turned on the MWD, but it closed. That's a roll. This was a horrible video. I'm going to redo this at some point. And there you go. We've rolled. Now, when you're rolling, you want to kind of keep checking the mass messages, just in case there's been a bunch of traffic through that's thrown off your math. If it suddenly says it shrunk very early, then you know you want to reduce the mass of those rollers and send them through so that you don't get rolled out, they call it. So you don't get trapped on the other side. What I like to do is carry a mobile depot so that if a situation like that arises where suddenly the mass is a lot less than it should be, I can unfit those Higgs anchors, those special rigs that increase my mass. I can unfit those and go through with a battleship that's again back down to 100,000 tons. So I'm less likely to get caught on the other side. So there you go. So that's a successful roll, even though I botched the prop mod stuff. And I hope that helps show you how easy it is to roll a wormhole. Cheers.